So you know the scene, right?
Yeah.
It's that cinematic montage we all play in our heads every single Sunday night.
Oh, yeah. The Sunday night reset.
Exactly. When we decide we are finally, going to get our lives completely together. Like, you imagine waking up at 4 a.m., the room is just pitch black.
Right.
You throw out literally every single piece of junk food in your pantry. You lace up those incredibly expensive running shoes you bought like 6 months ago, and you hit the pavement.
And it's always freezing rain in the fantasy.
Always. You run 10 miles in the freezing rain, the soundtrack swells, the brass section kicks in, and boom. By Monday afternoon, you are just this completely different, highly optimized person.
Yeah. I mean, it is a beautiful fantasy. It really is. It deeply appeals to our desire for a clean slate.
Totally.
We just want the overhaul. We want to believe that personal transformation is this, this massive event, a sudden shedding of the old self.
But then Tuesday happens.
Yeah. Tuesday's rough.
And then Wednesday. And well, by Thursday morning, you step into the actual harsh, unedited reality of human behavior. The movie montage just abruptly stops.
The music completely cuts out.
Exactly. You're standing in your kitchen at 6 a.m. Everything hurts. Your brain is just screaming at you to go back to bed. And you are staring at a donut like it holds the absolute secrets to the universe.
Right, because we burn out by day 4.
We experience the absolute dictionary definition of a motivation crash.
Which, it leaves us feeling so much worse than before you even started, because we internalize that failure.
Oh, 100%. We think, I'm the problem.
Exactly. We assume we just lack willpower or discipline, or that we are just fundamentally flawed somehow. But, and this is crucial, we aren't flawed.
Right.
We are just using the completely wrong strategy. We are trying to fight human psychology instead of, actually working with it.
And that is exactly why today we are tearing down that myth of the overnight transformation. We're jumping into a deep dive of a really comprehensive study guide based on James Clear's work, Atomic Habits.
It's such a foundational text.
It really is.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to look at the actual mechanics of how humans change. We are walking away from the exhausting, dramatic life overhaul.
Oh, goodness.
Right. And instead, we are going to look at a mathematical equation that, well, most of us are getting completely wrong.
Yeah.
We are going to explore the shocking, almost unbelievable power of tiny, consistent actions.
Because today isn't about giving you a list of top 10 productivity hack to just squeeze more work out of your day.
No, not at all.
It is about fundamentally rewiring how you view success and, honestly, more importantly, how you view yourself.
Yep.
When you look at the source material we are dissecting today, the most sobering but ultimately empowering thought is this: your life right now, your current results, are almost entirely just the accumulated outcome of your repeated behaviors.
Wow, wait, so everything.
Pretty much. Your physical health, your bank account, your clutter, your knowledge, they're all just lagging measures of your daily habits.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the central premise of our source text is, it's incredibly simple to say. But I think it's very hard for our actual brains to fully accept.
Right. It goes against our instincts.
Yeah. The premise is just that small improvements, repeated consistently, produce extraordinary results over time.
Yes.
And we all have things we want to change, right? We want to read more literature. We want to stop doom scrolling on our phones until 2 a.m.
We all do that.
We want to get fit or build a savings account. But we almost always attack those desires with those grand, super heavy routines that just collapse immediately.
We try to jump straight to the finish line because, frankly, we're just impatient.
Oh, completely.
But before we can even begin to talk about a daily schedule or, look at the practical steps to build a habit, which we are absolutely going to give you today, we have to dismantle this core myth that success requires heroic action.
We have to understand the math.
Exactly. We need to look at the underlying math of why small things matter, because if you don't believe the math, you just won't do the work.
So the math of habits. Our source provides a really compelling, kind of stark visual for this. Imagine 2 people.
Okay, 2 people.
They are starting at the exact same baseline in life. They have the same job, the same health metrics, the same amount of money in the bank.
Right.
One person makes choices that make them improve by just 1%, a tiny, almost imperceptible amount every single day.
Just 1%.
Yeah. And the other person makes choices that cause them to decline by 1% every day.
And day to day, in the immediate present, that difference is entirely invisible.
Right.
Like, the human eye literally cannot perceive a 1% change.
Right. If I decide to eat a healthy salad for lunch today, and you decide to eat a massive bacon cheeseburger, we are going to look exactly the same tomorrow morning.
Sadly, yes.
If I read 10 pages of a book tonight and you watch 3 hours of reality TV, our intelligence levels are going to be indistinguishable the next day.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source explains that habits behave exactly like compound interest in finance.
Right, the compounding effect.
Exactly. A single action rarely transforms your life on its own. It is the accumulation of those actions.
Yeah.
Over months or years, the gap between those two people, the one improving by 1% and the one declining by 1%, it just becomes a massive, unbridgeable chasm.
The examples in the text really ground this in reality, I think. Take the reading example. Reading just 10 pages a day.
Which is nothing.
Right. On day one, you've read 10 pages. It feels completely insignificant. You haven't conquered a library.
No.
But over time, 10 pages a day accumulates into 30 books a year.
Yeah.
Over a decade, that is 300 books.
That's a huge difference.
Or walking every day. It doesn't feel like a workout, but it substantially increases your cardiovascular baseline over a year. Saving a tiny amount of money from every paycheck doesn't make you rich today, but over 20 years, it creates a massive financial fortress.
And the compounding effect, it's completely agnostic. It works for you or it works against you.
That's a good point.
Yeah. The text emphasizes that small negative habits gradually create catastrophic problems. If you overspend by just $20 every day, or if you eat poorly just a little bit every day.
Or ignore your spouse just a little bit every day.
Exactly. It eventually compounds into financial ruin, chronic disease, or divorce. It is the slow accumulation of microscopic choices.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Because this is where, everyone gets stuck.
Let's hear it.
Doesn't it feel incredibly frustrating, maddening even, when you do the right thing? You work out for 3 solid weeks. You are sweating, you're eating the chicken and the broccoli, you are going to bed early.
You're doing all the things.
All of it. And you step on the scale, you look in the mirror, and you see absolutely zero change.
None.
It feels like the math you were talking about is totally broken.
Yeah.
It feels like you are making the deposits, but the universe refuses to pay out the compound interest.
It absolutely feels that way. And honestly, that feeling is the graveyard of most good intentions.
Go for sure.
The human brain evolved in an immediate return environment. If our ancestors were hungry, they hunted and they ate immediately.
Right.
Our neurology demands immediate validation for our efforts. When the results of a new habit are invisible in the short term, which they almost always are, we interpret that lack of visual evidence as a complete failure.
We think it's just not working.
Exactly. We get demotivated and we just quit.
It makes me think of an analogy, one that I think captures this frustration perfectly. It's like ice melting.
Okay, I love this one.
Imagine you have this block of ice sitting on a table in a really cold room. It's 25 degrees Fahrenheit in the room. You decide you want to melt the ice.
Okay.
So you start putting in effort, you start heating the room up. 26 degrees, 27 degrees, 28 degrees.
Nothing happens.
Right. You are burning energy, doing all this work, and the ice cube is just sitting there, hard as a rock. Nothing is happening at all.
Just sitting there.
29.
Yeah.
30, 31. Still a solid block of ice.
Yeah.
At this point, most people scream, "This is absolutely useless," and they give up. But then you put in one more degree of effort. You hit 32 degrees, and suddenly the ice begins to melt.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize the latency of habits. The effort you put in from 25 to 31 degrees was not wasted at all.
Right, it wasn't wasted, it was just accumulating.
Precisely. It was building the potential energy required for the visible change to finally actually happen.
Yeah.
The text calls this the plateau of latent potential. When you were in that phase, it feels like you were going absolutely nowhere, but you were actually storing the energy necessary for a breakthrough.
Wow.
And understanding that latency brings us to the paradigm shift that the text argues we absolutely must make if we want to survive that melting point.
The big question we need to start asking ourselves.
Yes, we have to completely stop asking the question, what can I accomplish today?
Because it's too outcome focused.
Exactly. That focus is entirely outcome driven, and it just sets you up for massive disappointment when you hit that plateau. The most important question to ask is, what behavior am I repeatedly performing?
What behavior am I repeatedly performing? Man, that shifts the entire focus from the destination, the outcome, to the journey, to the process itself.
And that transition from obsessing over the outcome to focusing on the process is really the gateway to understanding the core engine of how habits actually shape who we are.
So if the math of compounding is so obvious, and if we can logically understand the ice melting analogy, why is it still so incredibly hard to actually do?
Right, that's the million-dollar question.
There has to be a deeper psychological block we aren't seeing. Because according to our source material, the reason we keep failing to repeat the behaviors we want to repeat is that we are starting at the completely wrong level of change.
Yes.
We are treating the symptom, not the actual cause.
We aim our efforts at the wrong target. The source outlines 3 levels of behavior change, and they function kind of like concentric circles or, layers of an onion, moving from the outside in.
Let's break those layers down because this was a huge aha moment for me in the material.
Me too.
The first layer, the outermost, surface-level layer, is outcome-based change. This is entirely focused on what you want to achieve.
The goals.
Right. You want to lose 20 pounds. You want to earn $100,000. You want to write a novel. You want to get a promotion. This is where, 99% of people start their self-improvement journey.
And it is where they usually fail. Setting an outcome is necessary for direction, sure, but the outcome is just the final result.
Right.
It doesn't tell you how to get there. And more importantly, it doesn't give you the identity required to sustain it once you actually achieve it.
Which brings us one layer deeper. The second layer, the middle layer, is process-based change. This focuses on what you actually do.
The system.
Exactly. You implement a system. You decide to exercise 4 times a week. You block out 2 hours every evening to study. You write 500 words every morning before breakfast. You start a spreadsheet to track your daily expenses. We've moved from wishing for a goal to building a system.
Which is a massive improvement. If you have a good process, the outcomes often just take care of themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
However, the source argues that even a good process is vulnerable if it isn't anchored to something deeper. The deepest idea in this text, the absolute core of lasting, unbreakable behavioral change, is the third innermost layer.
Identity-based change.
Yes. Identity-based change focuses entirely on who you believe you are. It is your worldview, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others.
That's deep.
It really is. It shifts the internal narrative from I am trying to lose weight to I am a healthy person, from I want to run a marathon to I am a runner, from I need to save money to I am financially responsible.
So the belief comes first.
The TIAD argues unequivocally that lasting behavioral change absolutely must begin with identity.
So instead of saying, I am trying to read more books this year, which kind of implies you are someone who struggles to read but is attempting to do so, you have to shift your internal script to, I am a reader.
Exactly.
Instead of saying, I am trying to exercise, you think, I am someone who takes care of my physical body. And this is where I trip up, and I think a lot of our listeners might too.
Okay, yeah.
How do you just magically believe that about yourself? I mean, if I've spent the last 10 years sitting on my couch eating potato chips, and I suddenly look in the mirror and declare, I am an elite athlete, my brain is going to laugh at me.
Oh, absolutely.
It knows I'm lying.
Yeah.
I just feel like an imposter.
Right, because you can't just positive affirmation your way into a new identity. Your brain actually requires proof.
Proof. Okay.
This raises a fundamental psychological question, and the source addresses it brilliantly with what it calls the identity cycle. It is a continuous feedback loop. Identity leads to behavior, but critically, behavior provides evidence, which then creates a stronger identity.
Identity, behavior, evidence, stronger identity. Walk me through how that evidence piece actually works in practice.
Okay, so every single time you perform a behavior, you are providing undeniable empirical evidence to your own brain about the kind of person you are.
Like casting a vote.
Exactly. The text states that if you sit down and write a paragraph every day, you are actively strengthening the identity of being a writer. If you go to the gym, even just for 10 minutes, you are providing evidence that you are someone who exercises. You are proving it to yourself through action.
It is exactly like method acting for your own life.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Right. Think about how a legendary method actor like Daniel Day-Lewis prepares for a role. He doesn't just read the script and say, I am Abraham Lincoln.
No, he goes all in.
He stays in character even when the cameras aren't rolling. He wears the 19th century boots. He speaks in the high-pitched voice. He writes letters with a quill pen. He does the tiny physical behaviors of the character. so that his brain starts to actually adopt the psychology of the character. Every time you sit down to write, even if it's just one terrible sentence, you are casting a vote for the identity of writer.
You are handing your brain tangible evidence.
Exactly. Your brain looks at the action and says, well, I guess we are writing right now, so we must be a writer. It resolves the cognitive dissonance through the physical action.
That method acting analogy is perfect. You are building a legal case for your new identity. Vote by vote, action by action. You aren't faking it until you make it. You are proving it until you become it.
Proving it until you become it. I love that.
And what is truly fascinating about this identity shift is how it creates long-term stickiness for habits.
Talk to me about that stickiness, because that's the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
We want the habit to just run on autopilot. We want to stop relying on willpower.
Absolutely. When your behavior and your internal identity are fully aligned, you are no longer in the business of pursuing behavior change.
You're just being yourself.
Precisely. You are simply acting in accordance with the type of person you already believe yourself to be. The friction disappears. You no longer have to force yourself to act.
Right.
A true reader doesn't have to muster immense willpower to open a book. Reading is just what they do. A genuinely healthy person doesn't agonize for an hour over whether to eat a vegetable or a donut. Eating the vegetable is just aligned with who they are.
So the behavior reinforces the self-image, and the self-image effortlessly drives the behavior. It's a self-sustaining engine.
Yes.
We are literally constructing our future selves through these tiny daily votes. But okay, let's bring this down to earth.
Let's do it.
With our identity defined, let's say I have decided I want to cast votes to become a reader or a runner or an organized person. How do we practically execute those behaviors?
Because the votes don't cast themselves.
Exactly. If we know willpower is a finite resource that completely runs out by 8 p.m., we need a mechanical system to ensure we actually cast those votes.
We absolutely need a system, a behavioral architecture. And the text provides a highly practical, actionable blueprint for this. It introduces a framework called the 4 laws of behavior change.
4 laws.
Think of these as the fundamental rules of the psychological game you are playing. These are the 4 levers you need to pull to create a good habit.
I love how simple and categorical this is. Let's lay them out for everyone listening.
Okay.
Law number 1, make it obvious. Law number 2, make it attractive. Law number 3, make it easy. And law number 4, make it satisfying.
Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. If a habit fails to stick, it is almost certainly because it is violating one of those 4 laws.
That makes so much sense.
The cue isn't obvious enough, the action isn't attractive enough, the execution is too difficult, or the result just isn't satisfying.
And the absolute genius of this framework in the source material is the inverse set of laws. It shows you how to dismantle and break bad habits by just flipping the rules completely upside down.
Yes, the inverse is just as powerful. If you want to eliminate a destructive habit, you just reverse the principles.
Okay, walk us through the inverse.
To break a habit, law number 1, make it invisible. Law number 2, make it unattractive. Law number 3, make it difficult. And law number 4, make it unsatisfying.
Here's where it gets really interesting. These aren't just, motivational slogans you stitch onto a pillow. They are a behavioral scaffolding.
Right. A true framework.
You can apply these 4 laws, or their inverse, to literally any problem in your life. Want to learn guitar? Run it through the 4 laws. Want to stop eating junk food? Run it through the inverse laws.
It works for everything.
And that leads us to the most practical application of this, examining the 1st and 3rd laws, make it obvious, and make it easy in physical reality. How do we literally design the space we live in to guarantee success?
This is where we have to confront a very uncomfortable truth about human nature. We wildly overestimate the power of our own willpower.
They're massive.
Willpower is a finite, highly exhaustible resource. If you use it up at work dealing with a stressful boss, you will have literally none left when you get home.
None. 0.
To make habits obvious and easy, we have to stop relying on our minds and start manipulating the physical space around us. The source argues very strongly, based on behavioral psychology, that environment influences behavior far more than motivation ever could.
More than motivation.
Yeah.
That is the massive claim. Because we are sold this idea that if we just want it badly enough, if our why is strong enough, we will succeed.
But the data just doesn't support that. Think about your daily life. If a box of donuts is visible and easily accessible on the kitchen counter, you are going to eat one eventually, regardless of your diet goals.
It's inevitable.
If your smartphone is placed right beside your keyboard while you are trying to write a report, you are vastly more likely to pick it up and check social media, regardless of how motivated you are to actually finish your work. The visual cue triggers the craving.
But let me challenge that. Are we really that simple? Are we just basic input-output machines, like a computer program?
In some ways, yes.
You're telling me that just seeing a guitar sitting on a stand in my living room will magically make me play it? It feels almost insulting to human intelligence.
It isn't an insult, I promise. It is an acknowledgement of our evolutionary biology. The human brain dedicates a staggering amount of processing power to vision. Nearly half of the brain's resources are involved in visual processing.
Half? Why?
Visual cues are, by far, the greatest catalyst for our behavior. We evolved to respond to what we see in our environment. The environment acts as what the text calls a silent reminder.
A silent reminder. I really like that.
When you see the guitar out in the open, your visual cortex registers it, your brain instantly retrieves the associated habit loop, and it prompts the desire to play. You don't have to consciously think, I should practice guitar now.
The environment does the thinking for you.
Exactly. It initiates the sequence automatically.
Design your surroundings so that good behavior becomes easier and bad behavior becomes less visible. That's a direct quote from the source, and when you start applying it, it really feels like a superpower.
It changes everything.
Let's look at a totally standard, terrible living room design. Imagine a normal living room. The 65-inch television is the absolute focal point. It's mounted dead center on the wall.
Naturally.
Every couch, every chair, every piece of furniture is angled directly toward it, like a congregation worshiping at an altar. The remote control is sitting right there on the coffee table.
Ready to go?
Meanwhile, the book you claim you want to read is tucked away on a high shelf in the spare bedroom. In that environment, watching TV is obvious and effortless. Reading is invisible and difficult.
You have designed a room optimized for television consumption. You literally cannot be surprised when you spend 3 hours watching TV in that room. You are fighting the architecture of your own space.
So how do we fix it using specific tactics from the source? If you want to read more, what do? You don't just buy a book.
No, that's not enough.
You put the book where you normally sit. You take it a step further. You put a book directly on your pillow when you make the bed in the morning. When you go to bed at night, you physically have to move the book to get under the covers.
You are making the cue impossible to ignore. You are making it obvious. Law number 1.
Want to drink more water? Don't rely on remembering to go to the kitchen. Keep a filled water bottle sitting on your desk right next to your computer monitor, directly in your line of sight.
And we absolutely must apply the inverse for bad habits. If you want to reduce screen time, you have to make the screen invisible. Law number 1, inverted.
Make it invisible.
You keep the phone outside your workspace entirely. You leave it charging in the kitchen while you work in the office. If the visual cue isn't obvious, the craving is far less likely to trigger. Out of sight truly is out of mind for the habit loop.
And this ties directly, seamlessly into the third law. Make it easy. The text dives deep into this concept of reducing friction. Humans, by our very nature, are lazy. And I don't mean that as a moral judgment. We are biologically wired to conserve energy. We naturally tend to choose behaviors requiring the absolute least amount of effort.
It is the law of least effort. In any given situation, the brain will calculate the energy required to perform a task, and it will favor the path of least resistance.
Makes sense evolutionarily.
Exactly. Therefore, the objective is not to try to overcome friction with sheer willpower. Instead, you change the environment to artificially reduce friction for good habits and artificially increase friction for bad habits.
The source gives some fantastic, highly practical examples of this. Let's say you want to exercise in the morning.
Yeah.
If you wake up at 6 a.m. and you have to dig through your dresser in the dark to find clean socks.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. And hunt down your running shoes and figure out what workout you're going to do, that is massive friction. Your brain will just choose the easier option, which is going back to sleep.
Exactly. So you remove the friction before you even need the willpower. You prepare your workout clothes the night before. You lay them out right next to the bed.
Make it easy.
You put your running shoes by the door. You write down the exact workout you are going to do on a Post-it note. When the alarm goes off, all the tiny decision-making steps that cause friction have already been eliminated. The path of least resistance is to simply put the clothes on.
If you want to study after dinner, don't leave your textbooks packed in your backpack. Before you eat, Open the textbook to the exact page you need to read. Put your highlighter next to it. Clear away any mail or clutter from the desk. You are paving a smooth, frictionless road for the habit you want to perform.
And for bad habits, you become the architect of friction. If you want to eat healthier, you increase the friction of eating junk food. Don't leave the cookies on the counter. Put them in an opaque container on the highest shelf in the very back of the pantry.
Or better yet, just don't buy them. Make the friction require a 15-minute drive to the grocery store. Nobody wants a cookie bad enough to put on pants, get in the car, and drive to the store at 9 p.m. Make it incredibly difficult.
This is how you outsmart your future self. You use your moments of high motivation, like when you are at the grocery store or when you are feeling productive on a Sunday afternoon, to design your environment so that the environment carries you through when your motivation is inevitably low on a Tuesday night.
Okay, so we've hacked our environment. The book is on the pillow. The running shoes are literally blocking the bedroom door. The cookies are in another zip code. The environment is perfectly primed.
Ready to go.
But let's be real. Even with a perfect environment, starting a new habit can still feel emotionally and physically daunting. You look at those running shoes, and you know they are easy to put on, but your brain instantly projects forward to the 5-mile run in the cold, and you just freeze up.
The anticipation is heavy.
Right. How do we trick our brains into actually taking that very first terrifying step?
This is a crucial psychological hurdle. The brain is anticipating the total energy cost of the entire activity. And the source outlines a very common, very destructive trap we fall into here, the ambitious routine.
Oh, I know this trap intimately. I have lived this trap so many times. This is the classic New Year's resolution syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Starting tomorrow, I am going to wake up at 5 a.m. I am going to do a high-intensity workout for an hour.
Yeah.
I'll read 50 pages of philosophy. I will meditate for 30 minutes, and I will eat nothing but raw vegetables.
And the text notes that this massive, ambitious routine may actually work for a few days. You run on the sheer, intoxicating adrenaline of motivation. But motivation is an emotion, and emotions are volatile.
You fluctuate.
Right. Eventually, life becomes difficult. You get a poor night's sleep, or you have a highly stressful argument at work, or you just feel slightly under the weather. And because the routine you designed requires maximal energy, the entire structure completely collapses.
Because it's too heavy. The friction of the entire routine is way too high for a low-energy day.
Exactly. So what is the antidote to the ambitious routine?
The source presents one of its most powerful, counterintuitive strategies. The 2-minute principle.
The 2-minute rule. I love this concept so much because it feels like a cheat code. It really does.
The rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. You reduce the habit to a microscopic version of itself.
You scale the ambition all the way down. Instead of telling yourself, I am going to read a book every single day, which is a daunting hour-long commitment, you scale it down to, I am going to read one single page.
Instead of, I am going to run a 5K every morning, your only goal is, I am going to put on my running shoes and tie the laces.
Instead of, I am going to study Spanish for 2 hours, it becomes, I'm going to open my Spanish textbook.
Okay, but let me push back on this on behalf of the listener, because this is where people literally roll their eyes.
Fair enough.
Putting on your running shoes is not a workout. Reading one single page of a book is not going to make me a well-read scholar. Doesn't this feel a bit like we are just patronizing ourselves? We are kidding ourselves if we think tying our shoes is making us healthier.
That is a very common objection, but what's fascinating here is the underlying neurology. The objective of the 2-minute rule, in the beginning, is not to accomplish the entire task.
Wait, really?
Really, the physical benefit of the workout is irrelevant at this stage. The sole objective is to master the habit of starting.
Master at the beginning.
Yes, a habit must be firmly established in your neural pathways before it can be improved or expanded. Consistency must always come before intensity.
Consistency first.
If you cannot master the basic fundamental skill of showing up every day, you will never master the finer details of the habit itself. You have to standardize the behavior before you can optimize the results. The 2-minute rule forces you to standardize. Once starting becomes an automatic reflex, the behavior can gradually, naturally expand.
That makes profound sense when you connect it back to the identity piece we discussed earlier. You're casting that tiny vote.
Yes, exactly.
By putting on the running shoes, you prove to your brain that you are a runner today, even if you didn't run a single mile. You kept the promise to yourself. And realistically, usually once the shoes are on or the textbook is open, you end up doing more anyway, because the massive psychological friction of starting is gone.
The hardest part is over.
Newton's first law of motion, an object in motion, tends to stay in motion.
Exactly. You overcome the initial heavy inertia. And there is another powerful way to help overcome that inertia, which ties directly into the second law we mentioned, make it attractive.
Right, because people don't normally perform habits just because they intellectually know they are beneficial.
Unfortunately not.
Eating plain steamed broccoli is objectively beneficial, but nobody naturally craves it at 11 p.m. We perform habits because we expect some kind of dopamine reward.
The brain is an anticipation machine. It anticipates the experience of the reward. You crave the possibility of discovering something novel or exciting on social media, so you pick up the phone. Understanding that the brain requires an anticipated reward is key to building good habits.
So how do we use that?
The text introduces a fantastic, highly pragmatic strategy for this called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. This is brilliant. The basic principle is super simple. Pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do. You bundle a temptation, the reward, with a difficult habit, the effort.
The source gives some highly practical examples of how to engineer this. Let's say you want to exercise more, but you also really love listening to true crime podcasts.
A very common combination.
Right. You create a rule. I am only allowed to listen to my favorite podcast while I am walking or on the treadmill. Now, the difficult habit of walking becomes intrinsically associated with something you find highly enjoyable.
You want to watch a trashy reality television show. Fine. But you bundle it. You are only allowed to watch it while using the stationary exercise bike. You love a specific expensive latte from a local coffee shop. You only get to drink it while you are studying for your exam. You love getting a pedicure. You only do it while you are clearing out your email inbox. You are making the difficult, high-friction habit attractive by surgically attaching it to a guaranteed, immediate reward.
And we can take this concept of making things attractive one step further by looking at the broader context of our lives, our social environment.
Oh, this is huge.
Humans are incredibly social, tribal creatures. Throughout our evolutionary history, fitting in with the tribe was quite literally a matter of life and death. Therefore, we naturally, unconsciously imitate the behaviors of the people around us.
The text has a great quote on this. Humans naturally imitate their social environment. If everyone around you exercises, exercising feels normal. If everyone around you reads, reading feels normal.
And the dark side of that is also true. If everyone in your immediate social circle spends money excessively and carries high credit card debt, excessive spending feels perfectly normal to you.
You don't even question it.
Therefore, one of the most effective, overarching ways to strengthen a habit is to spend more time around people for whom your desired behavior is already the normal default behavior.
Choose an environment that supports the identity you want, rather than constantly fighting your current environment.
Yes.
If you want to be a runner, don't try to rely on willpower while all your friends are going to the bar every single night. Join a local running club. When you are surrounded by runners, the behavior of running becomes the path of least resistance socially. It actually becomes weird not to run.
Exactly. You are leveraging peer pressure for positive gain. So, we have explored a lot of theory. We've looked at the underlying philosophy of compounding, the profound shift in identity, and the 4 laws of behavior change. Now, it is time to synthesize all of this into action.
Yes. We have all the puzzle pieces on the table. Let's actually build a practical day-by-day schedule for you, the listener, so you can start your first real habit today without burning out by day 4.
The source material provides a fantastic framework that we can adapt into a 30-day practical challenge, and we are going to walk you through exactly how to execute it.
Let's do it.
The very first step, week 1 of this challenge, is not about taking massive action. It is about awareness. Before you can successfully change a habit, you have to clearly recognize your current default behaviors. The problem is that most of our daily habits have been repeated so many times they happen completely unconsciously.
You wake up and your hand just automatically grabs the phone. You feel a micro stress at work and you find yourself eating a cookie without even deciding to go to the kitchen. You are just running on autopilot.
We all are.
The text suggests starting with a daily habits scorecard. You literally write down the behaviors you regularly perform. Let's do a mock daily audit right now based on the sources examples, just to show how granular this really needs to be.
All right. Let's walk through a typical morning. You wake up, you hit snooze, you check your phone in bed, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you drink a glass of water, you brush your teeth, you go to the kitchen, you turn on the coffee maker, you eat a bowl of sugary cereal, You travel to work. You check your email immediately upon sitting down. You browse social media for 10 minutes before starting your first task.
So you list all these tiny, mundane actions out on a piece of paper, and then you go down the list and identify whether each behavior generally helps or harms your long-term identity goals. You categorize them.
Right.
Waking up, neutral. Hitting snooze, probably harms. Checking phone in bed, harms. Drinking water, helps. Brushing teeth, helps. Eating sugary cereal, harms. Browsing social media before work, harms.
The goal here isn't to beat yourself up or judge yourself. It's just to turn the lights on. It's to make unconscious, invisible behavior visible.
Just data collection.
Once you are clearly aware of your baseline reality, you can start strategically inserting new habits. But the text warns that a vague intention is entirely useless. Telling yourself, I will exercise more, or I will eat healthier, is just a weak strategy.
It has no parameters.
Exactly. It relies on you spontaneously feeling motivated at some undetermined point in the future. The text provides a precise, scientifically backed formula to fix this, called an implementation intention.
The implementation intention.
Yeah.
It forces you to make a concrete plan. The formula is, I will perform this behavior at this time in this location.
The clearer and more specific the cue, the easier it becomes for your brain to recognize exactly when the behavior should happen. You completely remove the decision-making process. Instead of, I will exercise, it becomes, I will exercise at 7 a.m. in my living room for 15 minutes.
I will read at 9:00 p.m. in my bed. I will walk at 6 a.m. around my neighborhood block. It leaves absolutely no room for debate or negotiation when the time comes. Your brain doesn't have to think, it just executes the plan. And there's an even more powerful, advanced version of this intention called habit stacking.
Habit stacking is incredibly effective because it leverages the neurobiology you already have in place. It uses a behavior you already do reliably every single day as the trigger, the cue for a new behavior. You don't have to build a new trigger from scratch.
The formula for habit stacking modifies the previous one. After I do my current habit, I will do my new habit.
So instead of relying on an arbitrary time on the clock, which, you might miss, you rely on an action you are guaranteed to take. The text gives great practical examples. After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Pouring the coffee is a deeply ingrained habit, so it becomes the trigger for the meditation.
After brushing my teeth at night, I will read 1 page of a book. After sitting down at my desk at work, I will immediately write down my top 3 priorities for the day. After finishing dinner, I will immediately put tomorrow's workout clothes in my gym bag. You are just linking a new train car to a locomotive that is already dependably moving down the tracks.
So structuring this 30-day challenge for you, the listener, based on the source material, week 1 is awareness. You don't try to change anything yet. You just pick 3 good habits you want to build, 3 bad habits you want to reduce, and you track your current reality with that daily audit. You figure out what your current triggers are.
Week 2 is environment. You start redesigning your physical spaces based on what you learned in week 1. You put the book on the pillow, you hide the phone charger in another room, you prepare the workout clothes in advance. You rigorously manipulate your space to make the good habits obvious and easy, and the bad habits invisible and difficult.
Week 3 is consistency. You implement the implementation intentions and habit stacking, but you only execute the 2-minute versions of your new habits daily. You don't try to run 5 miles, you just put on the shoes. You don't try to be perfect, you just try to show up and master the art of starting.
And week 4 is identity. You reflect on the schedule you've maintained for the past 3 weeks. You look at the evidence you've accumulated. You ask yourself, what kind of person is this tiny routine building? Am I starting to feel like a reader? Am I starting to feel like an athlete?
That 4-week structure takes you systematically from recognizing the problem to manipulating your environment, to mastering the beginning, to actually embodying the solution. But there is a harsh reality of human existence we have to face to make this complete.
The reality of day 14, the crash.
The schedule is meticulously set, the environment is perfectly primed, you've been doing your 2-minute habits. But what happens on day 14 or day 20 when the sheer novelty of the new project just wears off? Or when a crisis hits at work, life gets incredibly chaotic and you inevitably miss a day?
How do you maintain resilience? How do you play the long game when the excitement is totally gone?
This is where Law 4 becomes absolutely critical. Make it satisfying. The text points out a really cruel trick of human nature and evolution. Bad habits usually deliver immediate, potent rewards. You eat a chocolate frosted donut, your brain gets an immediate, massive spike of sugar and dopamine. it feels great right now.
The consequence, like weight gain or lethargy, is delayed.
Exactly. Good habits, however, operate in reverse. They require immediate sacrifice for delayed benefits. You exercise today, you sweat, your muscles ache, but you might not see the cardiovascular health benefit for years. You save $50 today, you don't get the satisfaction of spending it until retirement.
Because the human brain is wired with a present bias, meaning we disproportionately value immediate rewards over distant future rewards, we have to artificially manufacture immediate satisfaction for our good habits.
Yeah.
If we don't feel successful right now, we won't repeat the behavior tomorrow.
So how do we manufacture that satisfaction? We can't make a workout instantly give us a six-pack.
We can't change the physical result, but we can change the psychological reward. The source highly recommends habit tracking as the solution. A simple, undeniable visual record of your consistency.
Like checking off boxes on a physical calendar. The text shows a simple table you can draw on a piece of paper. Monday, read 1 page, check. Put on running shoes, check. Tuesday, read 1 page, check. Put on running shoes, check. Wednesday, blank.
That visual record makes your invisible progress suddenly tangible. The physical act of taking a red marker and marking a big X on the calendar after a workout or watching a digital streak counter go up provides a hit of dopamine.
It feels good.
That immediate sense of visual progress reinforces the behavior right now, satisfying the brain's need for instant gratification while you patiently wait for the long-term physical or financial benefits to accumulate.
But the text also offers a really important warning here that we need to highlight. Tracking is great, but it must remain brutally simple. If the act of tracking the habit becomes more complicated than the habit itself, the tracking becomes a source of massive friction.
Right. Don't build a complex, color-coded 15-tab Excel spreadsheet with pivot tables just to track if you drank a glass of water. A simple check mark on a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror will do.
Keep it easy. But you brought up the blank space on Wednesday. What happens when you look at that tracker and you see a glaring blank space? What happens when you inevitably get sick or travel or just mess up? Because perfection is a mathematical impossibility over a long enough timeline.
The ultimate question. How do we prevent a single failure from causing a total collapse?
The expert analysis here, drawn directly from the text's chapter on resilience, provides a golden rule for habit maintenance. Never miss twice.
Never miss twice. That is a mantra everyone should write down.
Missing one single day does not destroy a habit. It does not erase your identity. It is a statistical blip. The real existential danger is allowing one missed day to cascade into a pattern.
How does that happen?
The text gives a perfect example of how failure happens. Monday, you execute your habit perfectly. Tuesday, you execute perfectly. Wednesday, you have a flat tire and you miss your habit. Thursday, you feel guilty about missing Wednesday, so you skip again. Friday, you figure the week is ruined, so you miss again.
The failure cascaded.
Yes.
One accident turned into an avalanche.
Exactly. The core problem was never that you missed Wednesday. Life happens. The problem is the psychological continuation on Thursday. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the deliberate start of a new bad habit.
So the goal of habit building isn't to never make a mistake. That's an impossible, paralyzing standard. The goal is simply a rapid, unemotional return to the system. You fail once on Wednesday, you completely forgive yourself without guilt, and you ensure that on Thursday you return to the habit as quickly as possible, even if it's just the 2-minute version.
Perfection is unnecessary. Rapid recovery is essential.
Recovery is essential. I love that phrasing. And that brings us to the final sweeping philosophical concept in the source text, which is shifting our entire life philosophy from focusing on goals to focusing on systems.
Goals describe destinations. They are finite. I want to write a 300-page book. I want to run a marathon. Systems describe the daily, repeatable processes used to reach those destinations. I will write 500 words every morning. I will run 3 miles every Tuesday and Thursday.
The text points out a really sobering fact. Winners and losers in any domain usually have the exact same goals. Every Olympian wants the gold medal. Every candidate wants the job. If the goal was the differentiator, everyone would win.
But they don't.
Right. But the text states that a person can have an incredibly ambitious, beautiful goal, but if their daily system is flawed, they will fail. The goal provides the compass direction, but the system is the engine that actually creates the repeated behavior and moves the vehicle.
Which means we should constantly, relentlessly be asking ourselves, what daily system would naturally, inevitably produce the result I want? And once you build that system using the 4 laws, you embrace the concept of continuous micro-improvement.
You audit your system.
Yes. You ask, what part of my morning routine is working? Where do I keep failing? How can I reduce friction even further?
Small adjustments keep the system running efficiently. So what does this all mean for us today? It means we have to stop obsessing over the grand finish line. We have to stop waiting for the Muzi montage.
Please stop waiting for the montage.
We have to start obsessing over the tiny daily votes we are casting for our identity. The deepest, most resonant message of our source text today is that we are actively, consciously trying to build a life in which the person we desperately want to become is continuously, effortlessly reinforced by what we repeatedly do.
Your future self is shaped not primarily by major, dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime decisions, but by the profoundly ordinary, mundane behaviors you repeat over long periods of time.
Start smaller than you think you need to. Make the desired behavior undeniably obvious, make it attractive through bundling, make it ridiculously easy by reducing friction, and make it satisfying by tracking it. Then you just repeat.
And over time, those tiny 2-minute actions fuse into your actual identity, and your identity dictates the entire trajectory of your life.
We have covered a massive, comprehensive amount of ground today, starting with the invisible math of 1% compounding, moving through the deep concentric circles of shifting our internal identity, learning how to ruthlessly manipulate our physical environment to make good behaviors the absolute path of least resistance, and finally, building an automated, resilient system of tiny actions protected by the unbreakable rule of never missing twice.
It is a profoundly practical, robust framework for taking total control of the accumulation of your life. And as we conclude our deep dive today, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder, based deeply on the source text theme of continuous improvement and the invisible weight of compounding over time.
Lay it on us. Give us the final thought.
Think about a tiny, seemingly insignificant habit you do every single day without even consciously thinking about it. Maybe it is hitting the snooze button on your alarm clock 3 times. Maybe it is drinking a large glass of water the absolute moment you wake up. Maybe it is complaining about traffic, or maybe it is taking one deep breath before you open your email. Now, I want you to multiply that exact specific action by 3,650 days, the reality of the next 10 years of your life. Look at the sheer compounding monumental weight of that one tiny action accumulated over a decade. If your current daily routine, exactly as it is right now, were put on a 10-year continuous loop, who is the person you would inevitably become at the end of it? Are you compounding into the person you want to be or the person you fear becoming?
That is an absolutely staggering thought to leave on. The math is always running. Thank you so much for joining us on this extensive deep dive into our source material today. We highly encourage you to literally take a look around your physical environment right now, wherever you are listening to this. Start designing it for the person you actually want to become and take that very first 2-minute step today. See you next time.